Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. 19th G20 Leaders Summit set to kickstart at Rio de Janeiro. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi looks forward to the summit deliberations and fruitful talks with various world leaders. US President Joe Biden allows Ukraine to use US-supplied long-range missiles for strikes inside Russia. Kremlin says Biden administration is escalating the Ukraine conflict. Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure pledges $8 million worth funding for 12 projects across 17 small island developing nations. And at least 8 people killed as super typhoon struck the Philippines. US pledges additional aid to Manila following the typhoons. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi joined other leaders for the 19th G20 Summit in Brazil. Prime Minister Modi was welcomed by Brazilian President Lula da Silva at the summit venue. The G20 Leaders Summit brings together heads of state and government from the world's largest economies in Rio de Janeiro to chart a course for addressing the world's major global challenges. So 19th G20 Summit set to kickstart in Brazil's Rio de Janeiro. World leaders have arrived at the summit venue. There, Brazilian President Lula da Silva welcoming Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the G20 Summit venue. Now, let's take a quick look at Prime Minister Modi's itinerary for the day. Prime Minister Modi will attend the launch of Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty to be held at the Museum of Modern Art. Prime Minister is scheduled to attend the first session of G20 on fight against hunger and poverty. After concluding the first session, Prime Minister will attend the second session on reform of the institutions of global governance. Prime Minister Modi will also attend a side event on digital public infrastructure. Prime Minister Modi will also meet various leaders on the sidelines of the G20. These bilateral meetings are expected on the sidelines of the G20 summit. With Vedic chants, soulful singing of children from the Indian community, traditional dance performances and members of the Indian Diaspora from various business and professions in Brazil, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a warm welcome as he reached Brazil for the 19th G20 Leaders Summit in Rio de Janeiro. DD India's Gautam Roy spoke to them about their experiences of meeting the Prime Minister and how they've been contributing to strengthening relations between India and Brazil.
I got very emotional. For us, it's very meaningful to express our gratitude in the form of these mantras. We have been studying here in Brazil for so many years. I'm studying for 20 years, each one of us at least 8-10 years. And be able to show our respect and our gratitude is very important for us.
I think this visit of Modi ji, it was when he shook hands with all of us, it was mesmerizing. I think the feeling which you get, the goosebumps which you get inside is amazing, He has an electrifying aura, I think, and a personality. Probably looks much more younger what he looks on the TV, So at his age, 74, I only wish that Modi ji continues, running our country, making us all proud, and we continue being, growing under his leadership.
We are here experiencing, like I said, goosebumps. We are meeting for the first time to him, and it was like a heavenly feeling. Seeing him here in person and feeling him as a persona, the energy was so great here with our Indian community and welcoming him into.
He was very, very, very happy, and for us it's a big present for being a performer. So I would really thank that he patiently watched our complete perform.
It's very, very special for us. Yeah, we are so happy, very happy.
Yes, but it's very easy and very excited.
And did he say something to you?
He said very good beta. Like, it was very special for so many days. It took a long time to meet him. It was our first time time to meet.
People who welcomed the Indian Prime Minister presented different slices of Indian culture, music and dance, as well as traditional spiritualism. Interestingly, one group presented the song and dance of his home state, Gujarat. DD India's Gautam Roy spoke with the women who performed Garba and Dandiya to welcome Prime Minister Modi to Brazil.
A vibrant and energetic performance of Garba and Dandiya also greeted India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he arrived in Rio at his place of stay to attend the G20 Summit. We have some of the performers.
We performed Garba Ras for PM Modi ji on the guidance of our teacher Gyaneshri ji, who's from Sao Paulo, and we are from Rio. So we connected on internet, on Zoom calls and WhatsApp calls. We've been practicing, and she's been sending us videos of how to do the dance. And we finally met yesterday for the first time, and we practiced here in first meeting. So PM sir was also very impressed that we made good use of technology, and we made this performance a success.
What did the Prime Minister say to you when he finally saw this performance?
He was very, very, very happy, and for us it's a big present for being a performer. So I would really thank that he patiently watched our complete performance.
It's very, very special for us. Yeah, we are so happy, very happy.
How did you encourage her to do this? Your husband, I presume.
As an Indian, we always support our wife. That's what we learn from our seniors, our parents, and all. That is how we are doing.
Well, they say that music and dance is a true expression of joy or sorrow. In this case, it is joy. Immeasurable joy as far as the Indian diaspora in Brazil is concerned, because they've met the Prime Minister here on his visit to Rio for the G20 Summit. And well, the expression, of course, is that this is a successful visit, and the leaders too of the G20 come to these positions on tractious global issues that will take the world forward. With the camera person Loknath, Gautam Roy, Rio, Brazil, DD India.
So Brazil is hosting the two-day G20 summit beginning today. From the fight against hunger and poverty, energy transitions, climate finance, solving the global conflicts, Rio de Janeiro has a lot to deliver. Here's a detailed look at what can we expect from this year's G20 summit under Brazil's presidency.
The G20 grouping is made up of 19 countries and 2 regional bodies, European Union and African Union. The G20 summit this year is special because African Union is attending the summit as a member. Apart from the G20 member countries, Brazil has also invited 18 guest countries, 5 each from America, Latin America and Asia, and 3 countries from Europe. There are also 15 international organizations that will be attending the summit. India is set to emerge the fastest growing economy in the G20 nations. India has been a key growth engine for the world, contributing 16% to the global growth in 2023. India holds the balance between global north and south as a connecting bridge and has used the G20 to foster cooperation between developed and emerging economies. India has also led some of the key initiatives, including Global Biofuel Alliance and inclusion of African Union into the group, that have had a major impact on G20. During its presidency in 2023, India advocated for a more inclusive global economic order, pushing for reforms in multilateral institutions. India placed a strong emphasis on addressing climate change and highlighted the global south should not bear the disproportionate costs of climate action. India advocated the equitable access to digital technologies as a key enabler for the development of the global south and highlighted the need for a digital public infrastructure. India pushed for better global health cooperation, particularly in the wake of pandemic. A task force for global alliance against hunger and poverty has been proposed by Brazil's G20 presidency. The aim of this task force is to focus on establishing a global alliance to raise resources and knowledge for reducing hunger and poverty around the world. Adherence to the Global Alliance will open not only to G20 members but to all interested countries. The Task Force for Global Mobilization Against Climate Change aims to promote a high-level dialogue to implement goals of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement. G20 Social, a place where civil society can participate and contribute to discussions and policy formulation referring to the summit. Discussions on China's President Xi Jinping being a key player at the G20 summit, as US President-elect Donald Trump unleashed a trade and tech conflict with China during his first term.
So, DD India's Gautam Roy is now with us from Rio de Janeiro. Gautam, first of all, what, if anything, makes this G20 summit special? Okay, seems like we are having problems connecting with Gautam Roy for the moment. We'll come back to Gautam Roy as and soon the connection is established. For now, let's tell you about what India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi gifted to the President of Nigeria. He gifted him a Silofar Panchamrit Kalash, which is a pot, a stunning example of traditional craftsmanship from Kolhapur, Maharashtra. This pot is made from high-quality silver, shaped with skill and precision. So this three-nation trip of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is coming after winding up a successful tour of Nigeria. And this is what Prime Minister Narendra Modi gifted the Nigerian president, a Silofar Panchamrita Kalash on your screen, a stunning example of traditional craftsmanship from Kolhapur, Maharashtra. This pot is made from high-quality silver, shaped with skill and precision. And right now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Brazil for the G20 Summit. Still to come on DD India News Hour. India is projected to be the fastest growing economy among the G20 countries, with a 7% GDP growth rate expected for 2024. India is expected to be the second biggest draw for global investments in Trump's 2.0 administration. And Supreme Court wraps the Delhi government over pollution and the delay in implementing the GRAB 4 measures in the national capital.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. The US and its allies had been working to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs through the end of 2025, a way to Trump-proof US security aid. Making a significant policy shift, the US has allowed Ukraine to use the long-range missiles provided by it to use inside Russia. While Russia has responded saying Biden is throwing oil on fire, although Vladimir Putin himself is yet to comment. DD India's Kajal Rai reports.
The United States President Joe Biden's administration for the first time has authorized Ukraine to use US-supplied ATACMS long-ranged missiles to strike inside Russia. The decision, made with 2 months left in Biden's term, allows Ukraine to target Russian forces in the Kursk region. The move comes in response to North Korea's decision to send thousands of troops to Russia. While European Union has also advocated the use of arms by Ukraine.
I've been saying once and again that Ukraine should be able to use the arm we provided to them in order to not only to stop the arrow, but also to be able to hit the Arcas. I continue believing this is what has to be done. I'm sure it will be discussed once again.
Reacting to the reports, Ukraine's President Zelensky has said that such things are not announced. Missiles speak for themselves, as he has been pushing for the removal of restrictions, seeking permission to strike beyond Ukraine's borders.
Сьогодні багато в медіа говорять. Today, there's a lot of talk in the media about us receiving permission for respective actions, but strikes are not carried out with words. Such things are not announced. Missiles will speak for themselves.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has meanwhile said that a permanent escalation must be avoided in Ukraine.
And progress on poverty and hunger.
Firstly, our position has been very clear regarding the needs to avoid a permanent escalation of the Ukraine war. We want peace, but we want peace with justice, in line with the resolutions of the General Assembly, with the Charter of the United Nations, and with international law.
On Sunday, Russia launched its largest airstrike on Ukraine in months, targeting energy infrastructure across the country. The strike left 11 people dead and over 80 injured in the northeastern city of Sumy. In response, Ukraine announced a nationwide emergency power restriction starting Monday. Kajal's report for DD India.
Next updates from COP29. The Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, today announced $8 million of funding for 12 projects across 17 small island developing states under its Infrastructure for Resilient Island States initiative. Amit Prothi, Director General, CDRI, said that small island developing states are vulnerable due to their geographic location and small size. Giving due consideration to the need for urgent action, we are announcing 12 new projects as part of CDRI's commitment to make infrastructure resilient and protect lives and livelihoods. This was in line with the ambition outlined in Antigua and Barbuda agenda for small island developing states. CDRI said that it is committed to support small island developing states to develop resilient infrastructure through technical assistance, interventions in policies and regulatory frameworks, project proposal development, resource mobilization, enhancing capacities for project management and implementation, and strengthening data systems. The 12 projects announced today will support Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Belize, Comoros, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, Kiribati, Maldives, Mauritius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Seychelles, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Timor-Leste, Tonga and Vanuatu. The G20 meet is happening at the same time as the COP29 climate conference in Azerbaijan, in view of which the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on G20 members to use their power to leverage to tackle global issues such as climate and peace in Gaza, Ukraine and Sudan. Speaking from Rio de Janeiro on Sunday, Guterres stressed the urgency of climate action, warning of catastrophic consequences if major economies fail to act.
And I have come to Rio with a simple message. G20 leaders must lead. And G20 countries, by definition, have tremendous economic clout and they yield massive diplomatic leverage. They must use it to tackle key global problems.
The spotlight is naturally on the G20 countries as they account for 80% of global emissions. This year's UN Climate Conference is being labelled as the Finance COP, with delegates expected to finalise the financial contributions that wealthier nations will provide to support developing countries. Sources say the 20 major economies have reached a fragile consensus on climate finance, but an announcement is still awaited with just 4 more days to go. Meanwhile, conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine and return of Donald Trump at the helm of US politics also made path forward for the heads of states complicated. Trump's campaign promised once again to withdraw the US, which is the largest historical emitter of greenhouse gases and a major oil and gas producer, from the 2015 Paris Agreement. Experts believe that developed countries, multilateral banks and the private sector must contribute at least $1 trillion to the developing nations. US to provide additional humanitarian aid to the Philippines after the country has been hit by super typhoon Man-ye. Man-ye claimed 8 lives. Fierce winds and strong rains have triggered landslides and caused severe flooding in the region. The infrastructural damage by the typhoon includes uprooted trees and power lines downed and wooden houses crushed. More than 1 million people have been evacuated since warnings were first issued. Man-ye is the 6th typhoon to hit the Philippines in a month. India's national capital and the national capital region continue to reel under severe air quality, breaching the severe plus level with an average air quality index of 483 on Monday. Shallow to moderate fog was observed during the early morning hours today in different parts of the national capital. The India Meteorological Department has forecast that Delhi NCR is likely to experience smog and shallow fog during the night and morning hours over the next 2 days. The Supreme Court of India today strongly reprimanded the Delhi government and the Central Commission CAQM for the delay in implementing the Graded Response Action Plan or GRAP in the national capital. The top court pointed out that there was a delay in the implementation of preventive measures under stage 4 of the GRAP even after AQI touched alarming levels in the national capital. It ordered that the GRAP stage 4 restrictions will remain in place until further instructions from the court, even if the AQI goes below 400. The central and all state governments were directed to file compliance affidavits by Thursday, November 21st, while the next hearing will take place on November 22nd. So let's go back to Rio de Janeiro, which is hosting the G20 Summit, the 19th G20 Summit. And let's try and connect with our correspondent Gautam Roy there. Gautam, if you can hear me, first of all, what, if anything, makes this G20 Summit special?
Well, this G20 Summit is coming at a time which is very, very critical for the entire world, and that is what makes it very, very special, apart from the fact that it has set these goals that it wants to achieve. It wants to move the world forward on them, be it tackling hunger and poverty, be it reform of global institutions. Institutional reform has been a major issue as far as India and both Brazil are concerned, but it concerns the world at large. And then, of course, the issue of climate change, getting to build consensus on that issue at a time when COP29 is on in Baku, Azerbaijan. It's also making this G20 Summit very special. The fact that there are a lot of leaders, over 40 heads of state and government who gathered here. That's what makes this G20 session quite special, because then they can build consensus on these global issues and move the world forward in terms of tackling these global challenges. And this has leaders such as Joe Biden, of course, is here. There's the Chinese President Xi Jinping, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is here. Narendra Modi, of course, coming to this G20 after getting successful third mandate, one of those rare leaders who undergone elections in 2024 and yet retained his position. So that gives India a very special role and part in this entire exercise, because it shows how the largest democracy in the world has been very, very stable and consistent in the stand on these matters, and they have been carried forth very strongly. Along with taking the Global South along as well, which for the first time has become a member of the G20, a full-fledged member, because what happened was that they were included as members last year when India was hosting the G20 Summit. So these are several reasons that is making this G20 special, because of the fact that there's a global alliance hunger and poverty against hunger and poverty that's being launched over here. There's another reason to chalk up into considering why the G20 event or summit is special.
Okay, Gautam, do we know the issues that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to highlight at the summit?
Well, not for the record, but one can always surmise what Prime Minister Modi will be talking about. He will be talking about the kind of objectives that Brazil has set out to achieve in the last 75 years in terms of having diplomatic ties, and we are sharing a lot of these multilateral forums as well, BRICS and G20, just two of them. So, and it's another one which will have a meeting here in Rio too. Rio de Janeiro, of course, global focus today. And Prime Minister Modi will be talking about how global growth is the key to ensuring that hunger and poverty both are wiped out across the world. And with this global growth, which has been facing the challenge ever since the COVID pandemic came, And then there was the conflict in Ukraine, which gave rise to the cost of living crisis. And ever since then, global growth has not reached back to the kind of pace it was before the COVID period. India is the fastest growing large global economy, and it is also the fastest growing G20 economy, contributing 16% of global economic growth just in 2023. So that is something that Prime Minister Modi can be expected to elaborate upon as to how the world could go about doing the same if it was possible, and also how India has been responding to climate change in terms of energy shift, because that is another session that is taking place as far as this G20 is concerned, and how to use technology, the power of digital technology specifically, and digital public infrastructure is another theme that Prime Minister Modi will be elaborating upon.
Okay, we leave it here. Thank you very much, Gautam Roy, for those updates. Gautam Roy covering the G20 Summit in Rio de Janeiro for us. Moving on now. India is projected to be the fastest growing economy among the G20 countries, with a 7% GDP growth rate expected for 2024. According to a post on X by MyGov, citing the World Economic Outlook for October 2024, India is followed by Indonesia in the second place with a 5% growth rate. China ranks third with a 4.8% growth rate. India's time-tested partner Russia is ranked fourth with a projected GDP growth rate of 3.6%, followed by G20 Summit host Brazil in the fifth place. Meanwhile, India is emerging as a major hub for global investments and is poised to become the second largest destination after the US during President Donald Trump's second term. India is set to attract significant global investments, according to Vishwas Raghavan, the Executive Vice Chair of Citigroup, one of the world's leading investment banks. Raghavan predicts that India will rank just behind the US as the most favored destination for global capital during Trump's new term. With over $3 trillion in investor funds waiting to be deployed, the competition for capital is intensifying. The Citigroup banker notes that investors will be selective, with public and private markets diverging based on expected returns. Still to come on DD India News Hour. The International Crimes Tribunal Bangladesh orders report submission in genocide cases against Sheikh Hasina and 45 others within a month. Sri Lankan President keeps Finance Minister role, reappoints Amara Suraya as Prime Minister in his new cabinet. And critical conversations around the blue economy held during the Sagar Manthan, the Great Oceans Dialogue in New Delhi.
छोटे थे तो माँ प्यार से मूर्ख बुलाती थी, मूर्खानंद, और ये तो सच में मूर्ख समझते हैं। कस्टम डिपार्टमेंट वाले बन के कॉल कर रहे हैं और कह रहे हैं कि आपके पार्सल से ड्रग्स पकड़ा गया। सब समझते हैं, पहले डराएंगे फिर कहेंगे पैसे ट्रांसफ़र करो। अब प्यार से चाहे जो बुला लो, पर मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूँ, याद रहे। यूपीआई सेफ है। यदि आपको भी कोई इस तरह डराना चाहे तो उसे कहो मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूँ।
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. A quick look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure pledges $8 million worth funding for 12 projects across 17 small island developing states. At least 8 killed as a super typhoon struck the Philippines. US pledges additional aid to Manila following the typhoons. US President-elect Donald Trump continues to nominate allies for his new White House team. Trump tapped Republican Brendan Carr as the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. Trump, in a statement on Sunday, called Carr a warrior for free speech. Carr first joined the FCC in 2012. In 2017, during his first term as president, Trump appointed him as one of the agency's commissioners. Carr had previously worked as a lawyer specializing in regulatory issues. As the US President-elect Donald Trump is putting his administration together, the world is wondering how American policy will change on many topics, including that of trade. Among those worried are politicians in the EU and the UK. Lars Holter is with the Deutsche Welle. He joins me from Berlin now. Lars, what is the latest you've been hearing out of Washington?
Thanks for having me. So we got word from a senior economic advisor to US President-elect Donald Trump. His name is Stephen Moore. He's a conservative connected to the Club of Growth and the Heritage Foundation, two very right-leaning think tanks. Now, Stephen Moore said over the weekend that the UK should align itself with the United States on trade rather than pursue closer ties with the European Union. And that is just as the chief of the Bank of England had said over the weekend that the UK should try to improve its trade relations with the bloc, actually. So UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing competing demands over future trade deals with Washington and Brussels. In recent weeks, some have told the Prime Minister to pick a side between the US and the EU, while others have suggested he should strike deals with both major players.
And Lars, what exactly is Moore suggesting, and why does he not think the UK should find a way to connect itself to both sides?
Well, it seems that under Donald Trump, there won't be any kind of both sides politics. Trump has made it very clear that it's all about America first. And we know that he wants everyone else to fall in line, pledge loyalty to him, and not even try to forge relations outside his realm of influence. So Moore is now setting the stage for the new administration. He said that America has a free enterprise economic model and that it's superior to the, quote, more socialist European system. Now, we've heard the term socialist thrown around a lot throughout the campaign, with Trump easily calling anyone a socialist, Marxist, or communist if they don't sign up to the most extreme libertarian teachings. He has railed against any form of regulation and as such. And as I said, he expects others to fall in line here. So this advisor, Stephen Moore, is in a way threatening the UK.
And Lars, also tell us what exactly is more promising the United Kingdom?
It's much too early for that. But one thing we know for sure, when it comes to a Trump administration, any talk about free trade has to be taken with a grain of salt. Trump has made tariffs the centerpiece of his trade strategy. Well, if you want to call it a strategy at this point, that is. And he has not only threatened China and India with tariffs, but of course the EU. And I'm pretty sure he's not inclined to accept imports from the UK without any levies either. Trump has often said things that sound like he's striving for a trade surplus with other nations and finds a trade deficit to be a disadvantage. That is, of course, an unusual way to look at trade, but it does hint at his stance towards trade agreements. It seems that he will accept imports only to the level he can export into any given partnership.
Okay, thank you, Lars. Lars Holter reporting from DW Berlin. Moving on, the International Crimes Tribunal Bangladesh has ordered to submit reports within 1 month in 2 cases filed against former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and 45 others for crimes against humanity on charge of alleged genocide during the anti-discrimination student movement. The 3-member tribunal, led by Justice Muhammad Ghulam Mortuza Mojumdar, passed the order and said tribunal's chief prosecutor is Advocate Muhammad Tajul Islam. Besides, the tribunal ordered the investigation agency to update it about the absconding accused and set December 17th for holding a hearing over the matter. The tribunal was constituted under the International Crimes Tribunal Act 1973 of Bangladesh to provide for the detention, prosecution and punishment of persons responsible for committing genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes and other crimes under international law. Sri Lanka's newly appointed cabinet of ministers was sworn in today before President Anurakumara Dissanayake at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo. The 21-member cabinet comprises a blend of seasoned politicians and fresh talent, aiming to address the nation's pressing issues and chart a path towards sustainable development. Dr. Harini Amarasuraya continues as the Prime Minister, and she will also oversee the Ministry of Education, Higher Education and Vocational Education. Her dual role highlights the administration's emphasis on reforming education and enhancing vocational training opportunities to empower the workforce. Vijeta Herath continues as the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism. Other key appointments include Bimal Ratanaike, who has been assigned the portfolio of Transport, Highways, Civil Aviation, while Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa has been given the charge of Health and Media. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar congratulated his Sri Lankan counterpart Vijeta Herath on his reappointment. Jaishankar said he looks forward to working together to further strengthen our historic bonds of friendship and deepen our wide-ranging partnership for mutual benefit. Sri Lankan President Anurakumara Dissanayake will visit India in December. Newly appointed Foreign Minister Vijeta Herath said. Speaking to media today, the Sri Lankan Foreign Minister said that the President is expected to travel in India in mid-December. He further revealed that the President will engage in a discussion with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit. An invitation to President Dissanayake was extended during the visit of External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar last month. This will be the first state visit of the Sri Lankan President to any country, continuing the tradition of making India the first port of call after assuming the office of President. And Ahmed Muin Faruqi joins us from Colombo now on the story. Faruqi ji, President Dissanayake is making India the first port of call after assuming Sri Lanka's presidency. What does this say about the strength of India-Sri Lanka ties?
And there are lots of learnings from this. First and foremost is that the importance which Sri Lanka places with regard to the importance of India-Sri Lanka relations, the bilateral relations and position of India as a strategic partner for Sri Lanka in its course towards recovery from the economic crisis as well as towards its growth. This is something which is very, very important because time and again it has been seen that every time a new government comes in here in Sri Lanka, the president makes India the first port of call. And this is something the tradition is continuing even in this current government as well. There were a few, doubts and there were a few worries if the new government would have any alternative views with regard to India. But it has been said by the president himself during the visit of External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar to Sri Lanka that he would want to continue to work with India in its stride towards recovery from the economic crisis, and they want to see both India and Sri Lanka together working towards mutual and together to work towards a mutual benefit. And this is something which has been reiterated by the president on several occasions. In fact, it has also been stated during his election campaigns that they look at India as a very important partner. In addition to this, the importance that India-Sri Lanka relations have can also be understood that NPP had in its policy book maintained that they have kept India's strategic interests as a very important one, and this has been said to it has been informed to the Indian High Commissioner as well during his recent interactions with the President as well.
And what are the key areas likely to be discussed during President Dissanayike's meeting with Prime Minister Modi?
There are several important facets of the bilateral relations. One of the most important one would be the economic recovery. The second would be the defense and the security areas, security concerns in the region. And apart from this, there will be with regard to mutual developmental projects, which India has been executing here in Sri Lanka. In fact, apart from this, there would also be a few other topics which might come up in the discussions whenever President would visit India and have an interaction with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And there would be a few other discussions with regard to how India could facilitate investments in Sri Lanka and help Sri Lanka in recovery as well as in increasing the growth possibilities in Sri Lanka.
Okay, finally a word on Sri Lankan President Dissanayake opting for a smaller new cabinet with fresh faces.
You see, Tanvi, to begin with, yes, 159 out of 225 members in the parliament is what the NPP has secured. And a huge number of these have been first-timers. In fact, it has been a record that more than 160 members in the new parliament will be first-time parliamentarians. And NPP had to go for ministers who have been new. However, it has to be understood that the new ministers whom the government has inducted today, they have had expertise and experience in their respective fields, although not in government, but they have had expertise in the form of being attorneys or engineers or doctors, and they know their subject area well. And there's something which President Dissanayake has been talking about, that the portfolio allocation would be done on a scientific manner, on the basis of merit and experience in their respective fields, and not on the basis of any personal contacts or anything of other similar kind, which has happened in the previous regimes. And this is something which is a very welcome change, because a cabinet which has people who know the subject will go a long way in executing the reforms which the president had been talking about during the campaign as well as even after assuming the office.
All right. Thank you very much, Ahmed Moin Faruqi, joining us from Colombo on the newly appointed Sri Lankan cabinet. Moving on, India tested its first long-range hypersonic missile on 16th November, entering an elite club of nations, taking forward the country's aim of self-reliance in defense productions. The hypersonic missile, which is designed to carry various payloads for ranges greater than 1,500 kilometers for the armed forces, further strengthens and ramps up India's defense production capabilities, as the country is already catering to global military needs. Also, after the successful tests of the indigenously built Pinaka missile systems, India's military capabilities have set itself on a pedestal, bagging its first major defense export order from Armenia. Even France has also shown interest in the advanced rocket system. India has already been exporting BrahMos missile, a complete weapon platform for supersonic cruise missiles and other defense equipment like Akash air defense system, 155mm artillery guns, radars and armoured vehicles. First edition of the annual Sagar Manthan, the Great Oceans Dialogue, was held in New Delhi on Monday. The event serves as a platform for critical conversations around the blue economy. Delegates from more than 60 countries are churning ideas for the maritime sector under Bharat's leadership. It aims on strengthening excellent bilateral relations with a strong focus on maritime transport of goods and related investments. The event marks intensifying India-Greece friendship, paving way to new ventures into the shipbuilding sector. India conveyed its interest in expanding bilateral ties with Greece, expanding its shipbuilding interests.
Shipping sector में, ship ownership में, they are the leaders in the world, Greece. So इस सिलसिले में हम चाहते हैं कि उनकी भी कंपनी इंडिया में ऑपरेट करे और इंडिया शिप बिल्डिंग के सिलसिले में प्रमुख भूमिका ले, और हमारे इस विषय पर आईएमएक कॉरिडोर पर भी चर्चा हुई। आप सबको मालूम है G20 में जो हमारे इस कॉरिडोर के बारे में जो निर्णय ली गई थे, तो अब हिंदुस्तान से यूएई, अरब, देन लाइक जॉर्डन और उसी से मेडिटेरेनियन सी होकर ग्रीस तक जाएंगे।
We had very good discussion about the historic ties between India and Greece. We tried to find new practical collaboration on the ground after the excellent meetings between our ministers. my Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis and also Prime Minister Mr. Monti. We found some practical initiatives and we decided to be together in this very turbulent geopolitical situation in the world, but at the same time to see how we can cooperate in the shipping sector, in the maritime affairs, and in other many fields which is in our common interest.
The three-day Global Freight Summit 2024 commenced in Dubai on Monday. The event centers on the theme Acting Today to Reach the Opportunities of Tomorrow, attracting over 5,000 industry leaders from 155 countries representing diverse sectors of the global supply chain industry. The event has drawn significant participation from Indian corporations and entrepreneurs. A key focus of this year's summit is implementation of practical digital solutions while addressing potential challenge in technological transition. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian shuttler duo Satvik and Chirag will make a highly anticipated return to action in China Masters. And world observes Antimicrobial Resistance Awareness Week with a focus on urgent action against drug resistance.
छोटे थे तो माँ प्यार से मूर्ख बुलाती थी, मूर्खानंद। और ये तो सच में मूर्ख समझते हैं। कस्टम डिपार्टमेंट वाले बन के कॉल कर रहे हैं और कह रहे हैं कि आपके पार्सल से ड्रग्स पकड़ा गया। सब समझते हैं। पहले डराएंगे, फिर कहेंगे पैसे ट्रांसफर करो। अब प्यार से चाहे जो बुला लो, पर मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूँ। याद रहे, यूपीआई सेफ है। यदि आपको भी कोई इस तरह डराना चाहे तो उसे कहो, मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूँ।
Thank you for staying with us on DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja and time now for some sporting action. First updates from badminton. India's premier men's doubles pair of Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty will return to action at the China Masters Super 750 badminton tournament on Tuesday. The former world #1 duo had been sidelined from competitive action post the Paris Olympics due to Satvik's shoulder injury. Their absence from the circuit led them to miss several high-profile tournaments, including the Arctic Open, Denmark Open and China Open. Fresh off a lengthy recovery, Satvik and Chirag will aim to regain their momentum despite having been without a coach since Matthias Bo's departure in August. Next updates from the UEFA Nations League. Portugal trained in the coastal city of Split ahead of their upcoming UEFA Nations League match against Croatia, aiming to secure an additional 3 points in their unbeaten run. Portuguese defender João Cancelo remains confident in the team's ability to perform despite top players Cristiano Ronaldo, Pedro Neto, Bernardo Silva and Bruno Fernandes being released from the match by the manager Roberto Martinez. Meanwhile, Croatia is not taking the match lightly. The team's coach, Zlatko Dalic, stressed that they will not be playing for a draw despite needing only a point to progress to the quarterfinals. Portugal is already assured of a quarterfinal spot and currently lead their group unbeaten with 13 points and sit 6 clear of Croatia, who suffered a 1-0 defeat against Scotland. Inter Miami star Lionel Messi and his national teammates trained ahead of their next FIFA World Cup qualifier against Peru. Argentina hosts Peru on Tuesday at the Alberto Armando Stadium in Buenos Aires, off the back of a shock 2-1 loss away to Paraguay last week. World Cup holders Argentina top CONMEBOL qualifying with 22 points from 11 games, while Peru sit 9th on 7 points. The top 6 teams will qualify automatically for the 2026 World Cup hosted by the United States, Mexico and Canada. The Indian men's football team is facing Malaysia in a one-off international friendly match in Hyderabad on Monday. The match is the 33rd meeting between the two Asian nations, with the first dating back to 1957. India have not played any other opponent on more occasions as far as the head-to-head record is concerned. India and Malaysia have both won 12 matches each, while 8 have ended in draws. Malaysia won 4-2 when the two sides met last time in the Merdeka Cup semi-finals in 2023. Defending champions India will face Japan in the semi-finals of the Women's Asian Hockey Champions Trophy on Tuesday, while China will play third-placed Malaysia in the other last 4 games. Earlier, the women's hockey team beat Japan 3-0 in its final pool match on Sunday. Navneet Kaur broke the deadlock in the third quarter, while Deepika Kumari converted 2 penalty corners to secure a resounding win. India have finished at the top of the standings with a perfect record of 15 points from 5 matches. Meanwhile, Japan finished 4th with 5 points to take the last semi-final berth. The invention of antimicrobial medications has been one of humankind's most incredible achievements, saving billions of lives. This single discovery has nearly doubled people's life expectancy. However, antimicrobial resistance has grown into a major public health threat, causing multiple deaths per year. DD India's Preeti Kaur explores the threat of this resistance.
As the world just manages to stabilize from the COVID pandemic, another global health threat has caught the attention of the nations, irrespective of boundaries and nationalities. Antimicrobial resistance is spreading at an alarming rate across the world. Antimicrobial resistance occurs when bacteria, viruses, and parasites no longer respond to antimicrobial agents. As a result of drug resistance, antibiotics and other antimicrobial agents become ineffective and infections become difficult or impossible to treat, increasing the risk of disease spread, severe illness, and deaths. Highlighting the devastating toll of AMR, that is around 1.3 million lives annually, Director General of WHO gave a sobering reality check at the 4th Global High-Level Ministerial Meeting on Antimicrobial Resistance in Jeddah.
Antimicrobial resistance may not seem as urgent as a pandemic, but it is just as dangerous. It threatens to unwind a century of medical progress and leave us defenseless against infections that today can be treated easily.
This global health concern impacts human and animal health, food production, and the environment. The Global Antimicrobial Resistance Awareness Week from November 18 to 24th seeks to raise awareness and understanding of the resistance and promote best practices among the stakeholders to reduce emergence and spread of drug-resistant infections. The theme for the week is Educate, Advocate, Act Now. It calls for relevant government departments, agencies, appropriate legislative bodies to come together in addressing this global threat. Preeti Kaur for DD India.
So that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.